Hey there. We have another story this week. Mama had toe power. In my family, the two major modes of discipline that kept us children in line was voice power and toe power. Both held equal authoritative license. Dad need only call the child's name once, and we knew to do his bidding. Mama, on the other hand, took an unorthodox but effectual route to maintain order among her chicks. As quickly as a fly, she could reach out with her foot, grab some leg calf between her big toe and the adjacent one, do a half twist, and her subject was suddenly stricken with pain and motion loss. No question there, Mama had toe power, unlimited, even proficient enough to pinch through her stocking feet. Not to be left out, though, I too had inherited some toe craft, albeit on a more benign but noisy level. I could, at any time, make my right big toe crack like a rifle or pistol when I bent it a certain way. I could cock, rapid fire, or single shot, whatever the occasion required, and never misfire. The rule at bedtime, traditionally, was for us kids to be quiet and go to sleep. But my toe play was nocturnal, and at its best in the night. Unfortunately, my late hour recreation ran smack into Dad's slumber agenda. Our home was made of pine boards resting high above the ground on brick pillars. The north wind in winter flowed at it beneath the woodwork, chilling the floor to near freezing, keeping the house air shivery, but the beds were cozy and warm. We were 5 brothers and 1 sister. 4 boys slept in the back room on 2 big double beds. Sis had a room all to herself. The baby siblings slept at the foot of Mama's bed in cold weather, but Mama couldn't tolerate anything crowding her feet. So when her wee lad got too close to the tendered or mild toe tweak, sending the little fella yipping and scurrying back to his allotted spot. My toe frolicking, quite obviously, was next to impossible to manage. After the lights were turned out, I would lie in bed and relive a Western movie I had seen. In fantasy, I eagerly joined the cowboys in shootouts. My toe gift leaped into action and emulated the bang, bang reports of gunfire, which, of course, was the only sound heard in the dark. Dad, in the next room, would call my name only one time. Without delay, I knew to seize fire, blow the smoke from my gun barrel, and flip it into the holster. But in a little while, I forgot, and I started shooting all over again. The next happening was hearing the bed spring squeaking as Dad got up, fumble for his paddle at the side of the woodbox, and feel it sting in the appropriate place. 1 swat the first time, do it again, 2 swats, and so on. In desperation, I finally learned to mute my wild toe with splint and wrapped with much toilet paper at bedtime. Not surprising, my good old dad could never understand cowboy and Indian wars or cattle rustling. Neither could he fathom the delicate art of fanning the hammer on my make-believe 6-shooter or working my Winchester 73 lever-action rifle and blasting away using my toe for sound effect. As I rattled on, his eyes seemed to fix on something out there, and I knew it was a nay. But my toe proficiency paled beside my mother's. She had real toe power. A case in point was the time Dad was in the hospital in a distant city, and a wealthy uncle came to pay him a call. I drove Mama and this well-to-do relative to the medical center. After the visit, we went to a restaurant for lunch. When we finished, the waitress placed the bill on the table. As I reached for it, Mama bumped my leg to stop with her foot. I frowned my displeasure at her and almost had the ticket when she slipped her shoe off, shoved her toes against my leg, vised in skin and flesh, and turned. I was in lockjaw pain. The motor part of my body froze, halting limb movement cold. My tongue lay flat and comatose as my arm remained extended, reaching for that tab. Mama just smiled, didn't let go until my uncle picked up the check and laid the tip on the table. Then she just beamed and chatted pleasantries to my kin as we left the cafe, I with a slight limp. Archaic as it may seem, my parents knew the value of the Proverbs to train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. Proverbs 22:6. One might be surprised how effective this formula is if it's carried out, even if it takes some toe action. Mom and Dad realized also that for this ancient precept to succeed, the children must first be taught simple obedience. Not obedience that provokes, but a trained subjection that promotes respect for parent, fellow siblings, peers, and neighbor, and that right early. They, for certain, believed the spinoff of a proper discipline was responsibility, reverence, honesty, courtesy, security, and a host of other good character-building attributes the offspring would certainly need to function suitably in society. The question for my parents was, did their method work? Well, my sister and my brothers and I taught our children as our progenitors instructed us, except for Mama's hair trigger toes. Now, some 70 years later, we still rise up and call Mama and Dad blessed and thank God for the way that they raised us. Of corresponding importance, our children and grandchildren have made us proud, and we are again grateful to our Creator that we could pass it on to them. So listen up, mother and father. If you've tried many modern techniques that have not panned out, why not give the old Proverbs 22 verse 6 a try? Begin by teaching the kids basic obedience, and soon, or God just might reach down one day with his toes and give you a painful half-turn to remind you of its relevance. Dun, 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 dun. You know, as I'm reading this story, I'm thinking about the home in Bonifay, Florida, that all this took place. I actually own that home now. And the bedrooms that Dad's talking about where he used his toe power, I've slept in there a number of times growing up as a child, but also as an adult when we go back to visit there. I remember one time before his mother, my grandmother, went on to heaven, talking to her, and I relayed some of these stories that I'm reading to you because Dad would tell these stories with his brothers and his one sister years ago, all sitting on the front porch. They would relive these stories. So I sat down one day with my grandmother, and we called her Mama Fulford. And I said, Mama Fulford, I said, and I told her one of these stories, and she just laughed and laughed, and then told me, she said, I just don't remember it that way, son. You know, and I asked one of my uncles, my dad's youngest brother, about that, and he encouraged me by saying, well, Mama has selective memory. She was a lot tougher than she remembers. So these stories, I believe, are obviously very true and can even give us direction and guidance today. Hope you have a marvelous week. Blessings.